Hello everyone, it's Nan13 from Hexa House, and I'm here today to share with you the latest update on the game Barbaric. Our goal is to help everyone learn together, so I'll be providing a brief explanation of what this game entails. Let's save time and dive right in. Barbaric is a captivating game that we aim to enhance and improve constantly. We ensure that you remain informed about its latest version. Now, let's begin together. In a distant future, the story of the Barbaric game unfolds in an alternative world where humans experiment with nuclear energy. But then an unexpected event occurred. The impact of nuclear energy caused humans to become extinct. This same energy triggers an evolutionary response in all animal species, evolved to replace humans as the dominant beings on Earth. Thus, thousands of years later, the world is inhabited by these animals and call them barbaric. In the Barbaric board game, players will take on the role of the riders, who are assigned a powerful vehicle known as gear. As each player embarks on their adventure, they must carefully select a unique combination of rider and gear, creating your own character. After that, the players will choose a spawn space to start the game. The primary objective of playing Barbaric is for a player to successfully navigate to the central part of the map and obtain the energy core. Once this goal is accomplished, the player must then exit the map from any of its edges. By doing so, they will be immediately declared as the ultimate winner of the game. In order to win the game, there is an additional condition where any player must be able to kill another player twice. This will immediately result in winning the game. The player who successfully kills another player first will be awarded one victory token. Furthermore, if a player manages to kill another player, they will win the game instantly. When a player gets killed in the game, they will receive a death token as a representation. If a player manages to gather 2 death tokens, they will be removed from the game. Alternatively, if a player is the last remaining on the game board, with all other players eliminated from the map, that player will be declared the game's winner. Now let's get to the game with the game setup. Before we start playing the game, players must first set up the board like this. Starting with 1, unfold the map board by following these instructions. After that, to begin, bring the monster and position it at the center of the map. Make sure to place the energy core token underneath the monster like this. Next, we will position the minions on 6 nest spaces, each highlighted by a red border. After shuffling the survivor card deck and the event card deck thoroughly, please place them at these 2 designated spots. Following that, place the survivor tokens at the marked with green survivor icons. Following the 6 spots indicated on the map, after we have successfully set up the board, we will arrange all the resources in locations that everyone can easily reach. Including the dice, they are placed in a place where everyone can easily reach them. After that, we will let all players choose their characters, starting by finding the first player. We will have everyone roll the dice to see who will be the first player, with the highest score becoming the first player. Roll again if you get the same number until everyone has their turn, and the first player chooses the rider. Following that, the second player will select a rider in sequence after the first player. This process continues until the last player is reached. Once all players have chosen a rider, their turn will come to select gear. The order of selection will be reversed, starting from the last player and going back to the first player, with the first player choosing the last gear available. In this video, I'll demonstrate a 2-player mode for everyone. Celts will be the first player and Kira will be the second. Please place their character tokens at the play order spot in the top right corner of the board. We will begin by establishing the layout for the daytime area before anything else. After the players have chosen their characters, we will have them assemble the rider board and gear like this. Then we will spin the wheel for the starting experience points of the rider side. Starting with health 2 like this, it shows the maximum health the rider has now. The gear is the same. Spin the experience wheel to number 2, which indicates the maximum shield power the gear currently has. Then, take the red cube, which is used to indicate the damage the character will receive. Put it at the starting point of the damage bar on both sides, at 0. This means the character is not taking any damage at the start of the game. To clarify again, the central wheel shows the character's health and maximum shields, and the red cube's position indicates the damage the character will receive going forward. After that, we will prepare special status tokens for certain characters. Players can view these on the character guide card on the other side of the player aid card, which features the character's image in the bottom left corner. It shows the tokens the character has. Let's bring all the tokens and set them up near the character board to see which characters have tokens ready for use, or if some characters might not have any tokens for gameplay. Subsequently, as we start, we will observe that the rider side starts with 1 stamina. Players need to put the yellow stamina token on the rider character board like this. On the other side of the character board for the gear side, It will also start with 1 energy. Players should take the blue energy token. Please put it on the character board on the gear side in this manner as well. After that, players should keep any unused tokens nearby the player board, because if their character earns experience points, they will receive additional tokens later on. Those are the sub-stamina and sub-energy tokens. Lastly, keep the mastery upgrade markers near the character board. The character board setup for the player has been finished and is all set. And the next part, gentlemen, is the heart of this game, the player's skill cards. These cards are the main mechanics that will be used in playing Barbaric. We will familiarize ourselves with the cards before we begin the game. At the start of the game, players select 4 cards for their starter set. This includes 2 rider skill cards and 2 gear skill cards, and no card names can be repeated. Well, we will start by getting to know the cards so we can choose the best type to work with. This game features 3 types of cards in total. The first type is called Learning Skills cards. This will be a triangle symbol at the top right corner of the card. There will also be a resource symbol that must be paid to learn this skill. Players can use learning skills only after they have learned the skill first. To learn a skill, players must pay the resources located in the top left corner of the card. For the first installation of the skill card, it will be a level 1 skill, which requires only 1 resource. In order to learn the skill, the original skill name will be upgraded for the second time, which will improve its effectiveness significantly. For this second learning, you will need to spend 1 more resource than before. After that, in the central part of the skill description, there are some skills that feature a small frame in the middle. This indicates that the respective skill has a restricted range of usage. The skill usage range format will be different according to the symbol format in this area. Players can see more details in the rulebook to see what symbol format the skill usage range format has. The number next to the skill range format symbol is the maximum number of spaces away from our character. For example, the number 2 means that this skill can be used up to 2 spaces away from your character. The next lower part is the skill name and the skill description, which will indicate what skills enable players to control their characters, including what actions can be executed, the amount of damage dealt, or the health restored, among other things. This relates to the second to last line. The Roman numeral 2 signifies that if the skill is upgraded to level 2, you will gain extra benefits when using that skill. And finally, which character does this skill belong to? Players can see the symbol in the bottom right corner of the card. To understand how this skill will influence the experience wheel for the rider character, or the gear character side will have a symbol of that character in this area. Next up, there are 2 remaining types of skill cards. The counter skills cards with a lightning bolt icon like this, and the ultimate skills cards. This one features an icon shaped like a circle. Both types of skills share similar usage characteristics, but they differ in that the counter card can only be utilized when certain conditions are met. Players must meet the conditions specified on the card first, then pay sub-stamina or sub-energy for skill cards and achieve the stated effects. For finishing move cards or ultimate skills, players can use them right from their hand with no conditions. They are much stronger than other cards since there are only 2 per character. After using these 2 types of cards, they will be immediately discarded. Once players have drawn all the cards from the deck, they should gather all the discarded cards and shuffle them together to make a new pile. After all players have familiarized themselves with the details of each card type, we will proceed to have them choose their skill cards before the game begins, as previously stated. As there are skill cards for Rider 2 and Gear 2, don't forget that you cannot choose cards with the same name at the start of the game. This is according to our recommendations in the rulebook. We advise players to pick all 4 learning skill cards at the start of the game for easier and more convenient use in the early game. There will be 2 learning skill cards for the rider and 2 for gear, and this is an example of a starter card in this format. After that, the rider's card deck will be brought in. And all the remaining gear cards, let's shuffle them into one pile like this. Also, finally, we will take this deck of cards to use as the draw pile for our game, and that will conclude everything. Next, position it near the player board like this to make drawing easier. Once each player has completed their character setup, we will proceed to set up the monster board for that round. Let's start by looking at the monster board first. If players choose the competitive battle mode, we will flip the monster board to side A. After that, the player should place the red cube on the track at the number 0 on top of the monster board, which will indicate the number of minion deaths. Next, we will take the personal token of the monster and secure it in all 8 rage slots, just like this. Setting up the monster board. It's all done now. Regarding the monster cards, we will combine all the skill cards by shuffling them together in order to prepare for their use during gameplay. After that, position it near the monster board in this manner. This completes the entire setup for the monster perfectly. Before beginning the game, all players will be given 3 types of resources: scrap, food, and fuel, which they must place one of each on their character boards. It will be a way to players are ready to play. Now I'll explain. Game phase info for everyone. In the gameplay phase, prior to commencing each round, we will initiate with the event phase. During the event phase, we will draw an event card from the deck. Please provide 1 card. After that, make an announcement to everyone about what is currently happening. Players can check whether it is daytime or nighttime by looking at the play order bar located in the top right corner of the map board. Following that, we will position the event card in this area and the first player will take the lead in starting the game. The sequence of play phases will be outlined in. Here's the character guide card on the other side, summarizing the player's phases for everyone to see again. The first phase of the player's gameplay starting with the preparation phase as shown in red above. During this phase, players have the opportunity to select 1 action from 2 available options. The first action allows players to learn 1 learning skill. Select skills from the cards in your hand. The learning skill has a triangle symbol in the top right corner, as I mentioned earlier. Players are required to pay 1 resource as stated on the skill card to acquire 1 skill. For example, in the game, the player Celts learn skills by spending 1 piece of fuel to install the Megalodon skill. We will contribute fuel to the communal pool and then position Megalodon's Hunger Strike skill beside the character board, getting it ready for use. In this phase, players can consume 1 resource to use its effect. Each resource will provide different results. Fuel moves you 1 space, food heals 2 health, and scrap restores 2 shields. Or you can also consume 1 of them to draw 2 cards instead. You can read more details in player aid at any time. Additionally, when the player whose turn it is takes any action during the preparation phase, other players in the game can immediately choose to perform the same action, following the order of play displayed on the map. For instance, if the first player opts to take the action of learning the learning skills card. By choosing to learn the Hunger Strike skill of Megalodon, player paid 1 fuel. This allows another player to select and learn 1 skill without the necessity of acquiring the skills from the gear side. You will have the option to select and learn the skills associated with the rider instead. In summary, Kira can perform learning skills actions based on Celts, but is not required to learn gear skills. Kira can also learn rider skills or choose to learn gear skills if desired. It depends on each player what skills they want to learn at this time. Likewise, when the player whose turn it is takes an action with resources, other players can opt to do the same by taking actions with resources too. They must follow the player order, and the resources they use don't have to match those of the turn owner. The choice of resources is entirely up to each individual player. Once the players have completed the preparation phase, they will proceed to the next stage, known as the action phase. Only the turn player chooses an action. During this action phase, players can choose to perform 1 action from either the rider side or the gear side, in any order. We will explain the details of each action available shortly. You can check the player's character board. It will have details about various action types. Let's first look at the actions of the rider side. On the rider side, there are 3 actions available for selection. To execute an action, you need to flip the yellow stamina token that is positioned on the character board. This side displays the hourglass symbol. You can choose from 3 actions. The first option is to perform a search. When searching, players receive the resources shown on the map are right at the point where our character is standing. But if the player is in the area that is the point, this one has a white question mark symbol, just like this. The player rolls this blue resource die once. If they roll a face showing a resource, they immediately receive 1 piece of that resource. And in another case, that is if the player travel to the center of the map, where you can see that each space has 2 question marks. When players take action to search in that area, it means they will roll the resource dice to gain resources twice. The subsequent action from the rider side is, in fact, the administration of first aid. When a player experiences damage to their health points, for instance, if the character rider has sustained damage already. Damage number 1. In the first action phase, players may discard one card from their hand to recover one level of damage on either their life points or the rider, depending on the number of cards discarded. Furthermore, players will have the opportunity to rearrange their own turn order, allowing them to be the first player in the upcoming round by shifting their turn token to the first position of the next phase displayed on the board. And lastly, the action uses the rider skill after the player has learned at least one skill like this in the preparation phase. Players have the ability to execute actions with the rider's skill by turning the stamina token to the cooldown side and then placing it on the skill to utilize it effectively. Once the skill has been used, players will gain experience points for the rider's side by spinning the experience wheel, which will increase the rider's level by 1. Players will then observe that the rider's maximum life force has now reached a peak of 3 life points. This indicates that Celts can sustain damage on the life force side, up to a total of 3 life points. Next, we will take a look at the action on gear side. The first action on the gear side will be a movement action, enabling players to turn the energy token to the other side. Still the cooldown side, put it on the moving action topic. Players can move one space next to their character. However, in the case where the player is on a tunnel area with a yellow border like this, players can opt to move their character to another space in the tunnel that has a yellow border, which is also free. This space is an underground water tunnel where players can dive and pop up somewhere else. The rule for appearing elsewhere is that it must be an empty space with no one standing there. According to the main movement rule of the game, you cannot move to a space occupied by another character, including monsters and minions. And you are also prohibited from moving into the space with the red border. In the spaces where survivor tokens have been set since the beginning of this game, it indicates that if players perform a search action in that location, they will find something. Besides the resources specified in that space, players will also come across survivors hiding within the map. They need to take the survivor token off the map, allowing them to draw one survivor card to find out what event they have encountered. The player will meet a survivor named Barbaric who has managed to survive. They will do this by drawing one survivor card, after which the player can decide whether to assist them or not. This aspect allows for varied decisions among players, depending on the card drawn. And for the next action that can be chosen on the gear side, it is the repair action. Players are allowed to flip the energy token to place it on this action. The repair action will be somewhat similar to the first aid action of the rider side, where players can choose to discard a card from their hand to restore damage done to the gear's shield. They will also get to play first in the next turn. And the final action, which is the action using the gear skill that we have already learned. You will take the energy token, flip it to the cooldown side and place it on the gear skill. After you have completed using the skill, everything is ready. You will gain experience points from the gear side by spinning the experience wheel of the gear side up 1 level. Before the last phase for players begins, there will be a free action time. This is when players can use free actions like counter skill cards, ultimate skill cards and mastery skills. Players must have sub-stamina or sub-energy, shown as a green token to proceed. They earn it by gaining experience and spinning the wheel to land on the sub-stamina or sub-energy symbol. Players will receive 1 green sub-stamina token from the central pool to place on the rider's board right away. The gear side will also get 1 green sub-energy token for their board. Sub-stamina and sub-energy tokens will apply to free action choices I mentioned, including counter, ultimate and mastery skills. Regarding mastery skills, players will only learn when they utilize their skills and earn experience points, causing the experience wheel to land on this star symbol icon. Players will get a clear droplet-shaped track like this. They can choose to place it on the mastery skill they want to improve from 2 skill options. For example, Celts has learned the missile shooter skill. Going forward, when Celts utilizes the skill as per the conditions on mastery skill missile shooter, he can pay 1 sub-stamina to immediately activate the effects of this mastery skill. When the action phase is done, players go to the upkeep phase. Here, they just flip their stamina and energy tokens, plus all sub-stamina and sub-energy tokens. By flipping from the cooldown side back to the normal side, next draw a card and reserve the player's draw pile, completing the upkeep phase and ending the player's turn. After the first player has finished their turn, the second player will take their turn in the same order, starting with the preparation phase, then the action phase, and finishing with the upkeep phase. We'll do this until everyone finishes their turn. We are going to change the game's time setting from daytime to nighttime. The player token shifts to the night side on the timeline. The game will commence at the event phase. Following the same sequence as during the daytime play, start by drawing one event card and notify everyone about what has occurred. Following that, the first player will proceed to play as before, beginning with the preparation phase, then the action phase, and finally the upkeep phase, continuing this cycle until all players have had their turn. But after the night period ends, before entering the next daytime phase, a monster phase will be introduced before the next round begins. This phase starts after all players have completed their turns in the nighttime. The monster phase will have a total of 3 distinct stages, which are specified on the monster board as follows. First, the monster acts. The player draws one card from the monster deck and reads the details of what happens and who is targeted by the monster this round. In cases where there are multiple target options due to equal distance, everyone who may be a target will roll the dice. The player who scores the least will be chosen as the primary target. In case of a tie, the players will continue rolling to determine the monster's target. And in the event that the monster card does not indicate a specific target or only mentions a group target, each player will roll the dice to find out who will be the main target for that round, allowing us to move on to the next phase of the game. In this round, for instance, the monster will search for one player and proceed to launch an attack on them, once the attack is completed. In this round, Kira will be regarded as the primary target of the monster, Next, the minions will attack. Kira is the monster's main target, and he will control all the minions to move and attack targets within their range. In terms of attack range, movement, and attack power, the stats for monsters and minions will be shown on the monster board located in the upper left corner of the monster board. In this section, there are details available for everyone to see at all times. Furthermore, after the monster and minions have completed their steps, the subsequent step involves the minions spawning based on the number of players participating in that round. For instance, in this round, 2 minions were killed and there are 2 players. This round will have 2 minions spawn in the red bordered spaces. If there is more empty spaces than the number of minions to spawn, the target player, Kira, will choose where those minions appear. The last step is unlocking the monster's rage bar, starting from the leftmost slot and moving along the arrows. This will boost the stats of the monster and minions, making them fiercer towards the end of the game. The first box shows the monster +1 paw print symbol, meaning that when the monster moves, it gets an extra 1 space bonus, totaling 2 spaces from the starting value. After all steps, the monster phase ends. In addition to monster phase, there will be some additional details about minions, which is that every time a player successfully kills minions, the one who kills will roll the blue resource die once to receive another resource piece from defeating minions. Moreover, each time a player has finished slaying minions, this will raise the monster's anger level or increase the death count of minions by 1. Whenever you reach level 5, you will need to unlock 1 piece of the monster's rage token. After that, reset the minion kill bar back to 0 once again. This implies that the more minions players defeat, the quicker the monsters and minions will become aggressive. And the final section on the monster board is situated in the lower left corner. Each time a player causes damage to a monster, no matter the case, the player who caused the damage must roll the red monster die once. To see what action the monster will take as specified in this section's details, if a roll of 1 to 5 occurs, it usually allows the attacker to control the monster to move or attack other players. If you can command the monster to slay other players, the one controlling it will be recognized as the killer and will earn 1 victory token. But you need to be careful. If you roll a 6 on the monster die, the monster will turn and move towards you, attacking the player who attacked it instead. So attacking the monster carries some risk. There is a 1 in 6 chance that a monster will counterattack, potentially making the situation worse. This will outline the complete gameplay phase of the game Barbaric. Each player will keep playing until one person emerges as the sole winner by fulfilling the game's victory conditions. If you manage to take the core energy from the map or kill 2 other players, you will win this game right away. We've wrapped up the Barbaric game playing methods. If you have more questions or uncertainties, you can refer to the rulebook or visit the Barbaric Community Facebook group to ask or seek more information. In the group, we have our team ready to answer questions and provide assistance. Thank you all for watching until the end today, and we will say goodbye for now. Thank you for always following our work. Goodbye.